let's keep focused on.
Welcome to the Lady K Chat Podcast. Your favorite host, Lady K, is here. And I just want to say welcome and thank you for tuning in today's episode of Stop Screaming. And this show is specifically for all the parents out there that is having a hard time trying to get their kids to listen. And you think by you screaming will help. And I'm here to tell you, no, it don't. Please stop screaming at your babies. If that is the only way you know how to communicate, it does not mean you are a bad parent. It just means you need a little bit more skills. And yes, your child don't come with a manual, and each child is different. So you're trying to fill out what works for your child and what don't work for your child. But I'm gonna tell you this, screaming is not great for nobody, not even for the parents, because let me tell you something, after you finish screaming, your blood pressure is probably through the roof and you probably feel like you're about to have a stroke. Yes, so when you scream for that much energy to come out your body, it does so much to your organs, and then sometimes you wonder why does my body feel like that? Yes. Do you realize screaming has an adverse effect on your body? It's not great. And then the older you get, you don't need that stress. Why you think the old folks, as they get older, they can't take that screaming when you hear a little kid screaming? They can't, because it's their nerves. It done got to a certain point where you cannot tolerate that, because you know why? Because you've grown to a certain place where you have peace. And let me tell you something, when you have peace, there is no need to scream, because let me tell you something, all it is this frustration coming out. And 9 times out of 10, I'm trying to tell you right now, it's not your kids. Your kids is just the icing, because maybe you had a long day, or maybe you've been repeating yourself and they didn't do what they do, or maybe you had a coworker or something, whatever the case may be. All that frustration, aggravating is coming out on the child. And this is why I stress so much about self-care, because you're like, well, self-care, what do that have to do with kids? Everything. Your self-care and the moments that you give yourself, it has to do with everything around you. Because if you don't get that inner peace, if you don't that energy inside, that screaming, if you don't put it to rest, trust and believe me, it's going to come out a certain way and to somebody, and they're like, well, how do you do like that? What's wrong with her? And this is what happens. So parents, I need you to work on a strategy that best works for you, so you can get some time to yourself, even if it's waking up early before the kids wake up, or when you put them to bed. I know you're tired and I know you want to wind down too, but please take 10, 15, 30 minutes to yourself if you can, according to your situation, and decompress, because you need that. Because I'm here to tell you, your mental health have to be so on point for your children's mental health. So you have to identify what is healthy and what is not healthy. And what's not healthy is you screaming at those babies. Because not only when it comes out of you, you're stressed. I told you what it does to you. Let me tell you what it does to the child. And I really need you to visual this. So imagine you, right? You're right here, right? Let's just say this is you on the outside watching. You're watching yourself and your child. Watch yourself scream all that garbage into them. Yes, that's the picture that I'm painting. Watch that. And I told you to wash those dishes. And it's not worth screaming at those kids because they didn't wash the dishes. It is not worth screaming at those kids because they stayed on their game all night. Let me tell you something. If screaming is your only form of communication, you have a big problem. And if I just tell you that you need to evaluate yourself and you need to see yourself from the third person screaming at those kids and you see nothing wrong with it, I'm going to advise you just to go to counseling right now. But for the people that is willing to listen and you say, okay, Lady K, I can roll with this, keep it coming. All right, cool, wonderful, because that's just the beginning. Acknowledgement what you're doing. And then once you acknowledge what you're doing, then you're going to say to yourself, how can I change it? What do I need to implement? And Also too, this is why it's also best for you to spend time with your child so you can get to know them, know their love language, know how to speak with them. Parents, set the tone. That's what we do. We set the tone how we want things to go, because that is our house that we are paying a rent or a mortgage on, okay? And we will be damned if we're going to let some 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old rule our house screaming all damn day. No. And I said, yes, screaming all damn day. You know why I say that? Because when you're screaming, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to implement your behavior, because a lot of times we try to tell our kids, do as I say, don't do as I do. And parents, that just don't work. That don't work for them to do that. So if you want your child to be healthy, then emulate healthy behaviors, because that's what it's all about. So that's why I say I need you to get yourself under control, and it will get them under control. But like I was saying, you set the tone and you implement what you want. For a perfect example, say as you have a child, and they know how to tick you up. Parents, ooh, they're good for that, right? And they come to you and they go, Mommy, I want pancakes, and it's 12 midnight, and you're like, go to bed. I know you can say Lady K, what? But I just had to give an example, because let me tell you something. I have a 5-year-old, guys, and he be trying it. And one thing I caught on to what he was doing is that before it's time to go to bed, you know, we eat dinner. So we eat dinner like maybe 2 hours before it's bedtime. And he didn't want to eat. And he will wait till it's time to go to bed to say, hey, Mommy, I'm hungry. And please know, side note, I do not put my child to bed at 12 midnight. I just use it as an excuse. But I also, too, don't want to deprive them, because I want you to eat. I don't want you to go to bed hungry. But here's what I'm going to tell you I'm going to do. Because when my son was doing it, I'm like, okay, you ain't got to eat. So I realized he was developing a pattern. He was, like I said, waiting till late to say, I'm hungry, so I can feed him. Again, I'm not going to deprive, I'll feed him, but then that will mess up his bedtime. So that means he will go to bed a little bit later, and then when it's time for morning time, he doesn't want to get up. So I had to change the tone. So what did I did? When dinner time happened, he says, Mommy, I'm not hungry. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You're going to still sit at the table with us because it's dinner time. And he's like, but I don't want to eat. And that's fine. So I was let him sit at the table. I eat my food. I'm in silence. I don't say anything to him. The food is in front of him. I'm eating. Within maybe about less than 10 minutes, he started eating. I didn't say nothing to him. Ladies, I just want to tell you something. Sometimes it is just best not to say anything to the child, because when you talk, that just gives them extra motive to do whatever they want to do because they think they're smart. But we have to outsmart them. So sometimes you have to know when to shh, because sometimes we talk, but the shh. But going back to my story, so I was eating, I let him eat, and then he came out the blue and said, Mommy, this is good. I said, oh, you like it? He's like, yeah. And then we start engaging in conversations. And parents, I want to say this to you. I understand we have a busy and crazy work schedule, but one thing I am going to tell you, the table is the perfect time for everyone to come together and speak. Even if they don't say too much, it still gives everyone the opportunity, because you're creating a space where, hey, this is dinner time, we can eat and we can talk. We don't have to eat in silence. Who said that? Maybe some days you might want to, but for the most of the time, you're setting a tone. See, when they start eating by themselves, everybody's so separate. Everybody's doing their own things. And yes, maybe on the weekends you might do that, but when do you put something together where you all do something together? That's the key thing, doing something together. You want to form that bond. You want your relationship to evolve. When you start doing these things, I kid you not, guys, I'm going to tell you something. And I'm just telling on myself because I'm confident and I grew. I used to be a yeller. I used to yell, 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 yell. But then when I learned not to, and how I said, no, that's not the image that I want to portray for my kids, and I just start talking to them, I had to just, change what I was doing, because I was in self-realization then. So when you are accepting to that and you see what you're doing, this is why you say, oh, let me create the space like the table talk. Let us sit there and just eat and just have a great time and just laugh about any everything. That kind of like takes the weight off everybody, because everybody's crazy before dinner time. You know, ladies, you're trying to get the children together. You're trying to cook. You probably got to take a business call in between, and it's chaotic for some people. But that too, you have to know how to clean out your schedule. Clean out your schedule. Yes. For you to stop yelling at your kids, you have to create that type of consistency. Stop taking calls at a certain time. I had to do that. At business, you have to know when to turn it off. Do it before they wake up, while they have their little downtimes, you know, they're in their games and stuff like that, and then when they're ready to go to bed. I know it's tough, but that's what we have to do. We as the parent, like I said, set the tone. Part of setting the tone is creating your schedule around them. Because remember, once you brought the children into the world, it's about them, it's not about you. And it's about you instilling good morals in them. And you want them to be good communicators when they get older. Ladies, you want your son to be a great husband. How is he going to be a husband when you're constantly yelling at your son? Fellas, your daughter is your princess. Act right. How you treat her mother, that's the image that you portray in her head. See, I know right now we're just talking about yelling. Now it's deeper than that. Because again, once you put that, oh, I realize what I'm creating. I realize what I'm doing. Oh, I have to change that. That's not nice. I don't like that. Then everything starts changing, because you see things from a different perspective. So this is why I'm putting you in this place, so you can see yourself, so you can change the tone into your house, so you can create that space. And that's why I go back to table time. So now that table time is there, everybody gets to talk. You know, the 5-year-old, which in my case, now he's getting to eating, he's getting to talking. Then you got your teenager, hey, how's your day going? Fine. No, Lord, they whew. For everyone that got teenagers, I pray for you. Lord have mercy. Those kids sometimes, they're so hard to pull it out sometimes, because, you know, we're mom and you're dad, and it's like, I want to tell you stuff, but not everything, because I want to go talk to my friend and I want into my electronic devices, and yeah, we get it. But again, let me tell you something. When they get older and they will reflect back, you know what, my mom, we had dinner together, and she always said we can sit down and talk. That's what you want. Us being repetitive right now is for them to see that when they get older. To say, you know what, my mom, she took the time and she took us. You see what I'm saying? They remember things like that. So they're going to remember childhood things. What do you want for them to remember? Childhood trauma? Because yelling, that's childhood trauma. Or do you want to say, hey, my mom taught us healthy boundaries. My dad taught us healthy boundaries. My dad and my mom allowed me to speak. When they said to do certain things, I just had to do it, because I know. Because why? Because the tone changed. And ladies, I know, I think I said this before, sometimes when we keep speaking, it just gives them the ability to ache us on back. So that's why sometimes it's good to say it once. Do not repeat yourself again. Maybe repeat yourself twice. No more than 2 times, because then you need an immediate consequence. And it does not have to be harsh. But, however, like I said, going back to the table, see how everything comes back to the table? When you create that space and you continue to create space, that right there that you tell them, that you've been telling them 15 times what to do, that will decrease. Because that's when the respect comes in. And not to say that they don't respect you now, but I'm going to be honest with you, with all that yelling, it's kind of like, depending on your child, it might rub them the wrong way. Yes, some child might get in order, but that's just temporary. You don't want to use yelling as a long-term source. Right now, you want to say, hey, I'm temporarily doing that because I'm going to transform myself into the person that I want to become. Because why? Because I have to set an example for my children. And yes, parents, it's very hard. We have so much on our shoulders. We carry so much, but it is our job to carry that weight, not the child. That's why we have to decompress. And sometimes you need to decompress in that car ride home. But I understand right now we're in a pandemic, so you're home with them all day. Oh my gosh. For the ones that's homeschooling right now, I honestly, truly pray for you. I can imagine how tough it is. I'm she. Oh my gosh. Doing 5-year-old now, my 17-year-old, he's good. But the 5-year-old, I'll be like, listen, you be testing mommy gangster. Lord have mercy, he tests my gangster. But I have to remember I'm in control. I set the tone. And things are slowly changing. And that's another thing I want you to put in your head. It takes time. Nothing comes easy and it doesn't come fast. Every household is different. You have to understand if for a long, extensive time, if there was chaos and this is what y'all been doing, certain behaviors, it may take some time, for that to come around. But it's all about when you catch it and when you're ready to change it. So parents, I hope this helped a lot. I hope this put a lot of perspective to you on how you can also have fun. That's nothing. It does not have to be, like pulling teeth. Have fun with you setting the tone. I know sometimes it's not fun, but that's why you have to laugh. You have to laugh. So you have to bring some joy in it and say, you know what? Sometimes I'm gonna approach my kid on a jokey way, and sometimes that works. That's why I said it's important to know their love language because you're speaking to them in a whole different light. This right here, this is doable. I didn't think it was, but it definitely is working for me. So I encourage you to take a stance and try it for your household. But I thank you for tuning into this episode of Stop Screaming. Continue to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. I love IGTV plugin, guys. You can also look at our service and products at www.ladyk, K is spelled Kay, Enterprises, Inc.com. I'm going to repeat that one more time. That is www.ladykenterprises.inc.com. And you guys have a wonderful night. Lady K.